Okay, shalom everyone.
Shalom.
Good to be
Shalom.
back. Good to be back. Good to hear your voices also and to see your pictures, those who have pictures on the screen. And as you all know, things are jumping around like crazy here in Israel. On the one hand, we have, it seems, a deal, um, kind of like I told you so, like we kind of knew it was going to happen, but we didn't know when. But it seems like Hamas is frantic to have a deal to give them another 60 days to live. And so it seems like we're going to get back 10 more live hostages and 18 bodies, which is half of what Hamas has, or that we know that they have. On the other hand, we have the two top leaders of the extreme right. I'm sorry to say extreme right, but that's the way the world recognizes them. We have Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, who I don't know if they'll do it, but they are threatening to bring down the government and bring about new elections um, because they don't want to give the Hamas 60 days of grace. There's like a real interest in going ahead with this war and finishing it. And I think even President Trump said, get it over with, finish it. And every time there is this deal, piecemeal deal, to get a whole bunch of hostages out, uh, people have a lack of patience. They want the war to finish and basically sacrifice, I don't want to say sacrifice, but run the risk of sacrificing our hostages there. Um, I don't know. I don't envy Prime Minister Netanyahu because it's a very, very impossible decision. We don't want our 10 hostages dead. We want them alive and we want them home. We want the 18 bodies home. And we don't even really know if Hamas is saying yes, but Hamas is very good at saying, yes, we agree with the deal, but we want a few more things. And that will torpedo the whole deal. So this is where the Israeli government is right now. And I would say that there is a real risk of the government of Netanyahu collapsing, which will lead to a call for elections. Um, I don't want to talk about the Bible Bloc Party because we're ready. I mean, if elections are held, then I do not travel to the States in October, November, December, which is something I was afraid of. And it's the right wing that brings the government down. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the left will make a deal with Netanyahu, as much as they hate him, to leave him in power in order to do this deal. But we have a saying in Israel, the best people to bring down a right-wing government are the right-wing leaders. It's not the first time this has happened. And I've been living here in Israel, 56, how many years? 57 years. And I remember when the Shamir government was brought down by Geulah Cohen and Gershon Solomon and other people who were on the right wing of the spectrum. And then Rabin came to power illegally and brought about the Oslo agreements. And so we went from a right-wing government to a crazy left-wing government. And it's like in America, where Trump was president, and then they stole the elections, brought in a crazy left-wing government, and then by vote of the people, Trump returned to power. So, but you have these radically different approaches to the situation politically. And so, I am, of course, I'm not in the Knesset yet. So I have to sit back and watch as everyone else fumbles and bumbles. And so we'll have to see where it goes with the getting back our 10 hostages plus 18 dead hostages. And then in 60 days, probably the war resumes. Even if the government is brought down, there will not be elections for another 90 days. And at that, and before that, Netanyahu can still go ahead and call for a full invasion of Gaza City. So we're waiting to see. As far as Putin and Ukraine and Trump, um, uh, I'm also very split because, we have actually a very good relationship with Putin as a human being. He's not bad for Israel. He's not bad to Israel. He has a very strong personal, heartfelt relationship with the Jewish people. On the other hand, we all support democracy in Ukraine and causing the Russians to withdraw. So I don't know where that's all going, but I think it is a good thing that all these European leaders came to Washington to stand firm with Zelensky of the Ukraine. And so, of course, we're watching that very, very carefully. I think these are the two main stories that we are all watching. There's a third story we need to talk about, and that is about Iran, because the leadership in Iran is alluding to a new war with Israel. They're hinting that there's going to be another round with Israel. Um, I think the Iranians are so desperate that they are clutching at every different straw they can clutch in order to start a war with Israel, punish Israel, and then probably get thrown out of power or use the war as an excuse to double down even more strongly on the Iranian people. Um, the Iranian Ayatollah regime is punishing its people terribly. And so here in Israel, we have the full backing of President Trump for as long as he's in power, for as long as he's president of the United States. So it may be there will be a second round with Iran. We have to watch that very carefully. Um, I think the world sees that the United States is stronger than ever, so I don't think China would dare to attack Taiwan at this time or attack the Philippines or anyone else. So these are all political games that we're in the middle of right here. We, of course, have been watching very closely the situation in Syria, South Syria, of the Druze people in Suwaida, as well as the six Druze villages bordering the Israeli, or shall I say, the Ramat Golan, the Golan Heights Druze villages. And they are demanding either independence, in other words, an independent Druze state, which I don't think they will get, or an Israeli-backed um, um, appendix to Israel. I call it an appendix because they don't have, the way I see it, they don't have a justifiable existence as an independent state. They have to be part of Syria or part of Israel. And of course, President Trump is doing everything he can to try to help to stabilize the situation with al-Julani in Syria. I don't think it's going to work. The Kurds, I have to tell you, I'm doing my accounting for 2024. And so I have many, many expenses, many debits, which appear in my yahoo.com email. And so I started with the 1st of January, 2024, and I'm reading all of these different things I consider important. I don't erase, I keep them. And then once a year, usually like a year and a half later, I go through the emails that accumulated during the previous year, and you see a pattern. And I see that pattern. And the situation, I believe, is that Syria is going to disappear from the map. Syria, I believe, is going to break up into the Druze area in the south, as well as in Damascus. In Damascus, you have Christians, you have Druze, you have Alawites. Um, Maybe Syria will exist as a small city state. in Damascus. You have the Druze in the northeast, on the right, sitting right there on the Euphrates River, which is very biblical in my opinion. The Druze, of course, and the Kurds have been speaking about a land route drive from Suwaida to the Euphrates to the Kurdish areas. Um, there are Sunnis, many Sunnis in Syria. Many of them that fled are going back to Syria. And of course, the first thing they want is vengeance against the Shiite Alawites. So an interesting point is, I know many of you are interested in what's happening with Turkey, but you have in the northwest of Lebanon, Tartus and Latakia. These are strongholds of the Shiite Alawites, and Julani kind of leaves them alone for now because they're armed. They're ready to go back to battle again against the Julani ISIS fanatic Sunni groups. An interesting point also, if we're talking about the war between the Shiite Alawites and the Sunnis, if you look at southwest Turkey, southwest Turkey is Shiite Alawite, and they border with Shiite Alawites in Lebanon. So you have northeast Lebanon, northwest Lebanon, southwest Turkey. Southeast Turkey is Kurds. The Turks themselves are 44% of the country, but they control. So I would not be surprised if there's a radical change in the map of the Middle East. In other words, the Shiite Alawites in northwest Lebanon and in southwest Turkey theoretically could break away from Turkey and Lebanon and form their own state, a Shiite state. The Kurds could, in southeast Turkey and northeast Syria could break away and join up with the Kurds in Iraq and in Iran and form a Kurdistan. These are radical ideas. Israel is very, very afraid to get sucked into this ethnic war in the entire Middle East. But I think in the end it's inevitable because these people ain't Anglo-Saxon Westerners. They are Middle Easterners, ethnic groups, and all these groups hate the Sunnis, and the Sunnis hate them. There's a reason that the Bashar al-Assad group was able to rule as a dictatorship until Hezbollah was finally destroyed. Hezbollah was backed by Iran, and Bashar al-Assad was backed by Iran. So this collapse of the axis of evil of the Iranians and the Shiites, they collapsed militarily in face of the Turkish-backed Julani group, but they weren't totally defeated. The place is full of arms, full of weapons. And so these are things that I'm telling you now that are very, very much not in the news globally. Here in Israel, we are watching all of this very carefully. And it is an interesting point that all the TV stations in Israel, including the left-wing anti-Bibi stations, they all agree that we are sitting on top of a volcano, not of our making, with the Shiites and the Sunnis and the Druze and the Kurds. So we're watching that very carefully. And of course, again, we're watching Iran because we could still have a war with Iran again, have another round of missiles and other things happening. And I will say, I praise God that I was able personally to function 2 months in the United States. And I'm happy to be back home in Israel because it's not over yet. It's not over yet with us. I think an interesting point also is that Russia is not backing Iran more than with weaponries that everybody's selling weaponries to the Middle East, not only the Russians. America, I think, supplies 90% of the weapons in the Middle East, and I'm not talking about Israel. So all of these things together, we have a tinderbox ready to explode here. Um, it's not over till it's over. By the way, if you know the history of the Balkan Wars, 1908, 1911, 1912, each year there was another war in which the different Christian states defeated the Muslims, defeated the Turks. Defeat doesn't mean to destroy because the Turks come back. The Turks are back. The Arabs are back. So we're watching all these things very carefully. Um, but I think that the Arab world, which at first did not take Israel seriously, is now appreciating the strength that Israel has and is taking Israel very, very seriously. So, of course, we have to look at Ukraine, Russia. We have to look at the issue of the so-called recognition of the Palestinian state, in which many, many countries are going to embargo Israel and boycott Israel. We're going to have problems with that. So we're definitely going to be needing our Christians. I want to say our Jews, but unfortunately, there are many Jews who are not supporting Israel like they should. And it's you guys, or as they say in Texas, y'alls, who are standing with us. And I'm just very frankly very surprised that we don't see more and more support for the Jews who support the Christians. It's kind of like we take y'alls for granted, which we should not be doing. So anyway, these are the situations. We're living in the middle of very, very crazy situations. Um, Another point is that Israel is making a very great effort with South Sudan. As you all know, there's a country called South Sudan, which was part of the big Sudan, and it broke away because they were being persecuted as Christians by the Muslim North. And there's actually a problem now with cholera in South Sudan. So Israel is stepping in a big way, as far as Israel can, to help overcome the cholera. And South Sudan, it seems, has agreed with Israel. South Sudan is a Christian country which is very pro-Israel. So they're being supported by Israel, and it seems some of the Gazans are going to be transferred to live in South Sudan, which puts them very close to North Sudan, which is a Muslim Arab country. I don't know where all of this is going. The Gazans are now they've been accepted, a few thousand of them in Indonesia, which is something I spoke about many times on these Zooms. Indonesia has agreed to take in a few thousand. We don't know who's taking in how many, but we do know, for example, that Indonesia does need the Gaza laborers. And I mentioned this many times in the past, to rebuild the capital city of Jakarta. Jakarta has a geological problem. It is sinking like Mexico City. And so they are trying to rebuild the city somewhere else, not too far away. And the Gazans are talented as far as building, and they're Sunni Muslims like the Muslims of Indonesia. So I know that we are moving forward with transferring people from Gaza to Indonesia, to South Sudan, also to I think to Somalia. I have heard of that there are two other countries. I don't know exactly who's who yet. A lot of this is hush hush. We don't want to spoil things by announcing things, and then countries have to deny that they're doing it. But diplomatically, Israel is working very hard to prepare the way for the Gaza population to be transferred to areas where, firstly, they won't be a threat to Israel, and they won't be a threat in the countries where they're going. And on the contrary, these countries will take advantage of the talented Gaza workers to be builders. So we're watching that too. There's so much going on here of interest. Um, so, like I said before, just to summarize, the big threat now is a renewed war with Iran and and watching where the Gazans are going. An interesting point is, many times you read between the lines. We were talking about 1 million Gazans in the city of Gaza, and now all of a sudden they're talking about 850,000. So it seems like, and we heard that the Egyptians did allow for payment, did allow for Gazans to leave Gaza and go to other countries. The rich Gazans have all fled. I mean, they've paid the Egyptians and gotten out of Gaza. So what we're watching, I think, is already the beginning of a process of the evacuation of the Gaza population from Gaza. And of course, the Israeli intelligence is reviewing, the facial figures of people because we know who the terrorists are. And I think they're not talking about it, but I think we're catching the terrorists as they try to leave Gaza. It's funny, when I was in Texas, I was drinking Dr. Pepper all the time, and here I have a few cans of root beer. I said, I gotta drink them. So I always loved root beer more than Dr. Pepper. Now I love Dr. Pepper more. I must be a Texan. So anyway, so like I said before, I'm happy to be home. The last 2, 3 weeks, I've been very, very busy with family events. Um, uh, Very, very special family events. We had a circumcision party a few days ago with my wife's brother's grandchild was circumcised, and they're very, very, very ultra-Orthodox. And they know who I am. They know what I'm doing. They love me very much, and I love them very much. So I'm very close. It's very interesting. I have a very good relationship with them.
Good.
Rachel also, and we had a very interesting meeting with the Egyptian immigrant group that visited actually an Iraqi lady who was spokesperson for the police, Linda Menuhin. And it's interesting how we all keep in touch. Um, so there is a very, very strong social life that we have here. Very good to be home. I haven't even gone swimming in the pool yet. So like I'm just here, like rebounding from event to event and enjoying life in the way I enjoy life here. It's not the same as how I enjoy life when I'm in America, which I do enjoy my life in America when I'm preaching and going to churches. And Rachel says to me, "Oh, you're going to America for the glory." I said, "Yes, absolutely." I go to America for the glory. Um, because here in Israel, I'm just a nobody, and then at least I get elected to the Knesset. But in America, I'm the Jewish brother of Jesus Christ, so that gives me a lot of adoration in the Christian circles. And so now I'm working on a number of venues to go back to the States in October, November. Again, as long as there is no election called in the next 3, 4 months, and I can travel, I will travel. And so everything is okay. Everything is good. Do we have any questions? I know Lori's always the first with the ear. You're already unmuted. Good. Go for it, Lori.
I'm curious about Judea and Samaria, and like Aaron posted on Facebook that Bibi Netanyahu had visited Ophrah, and it seems like we get little tidbits of news about things happening in Judea and Samaria and sovereignty. Can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. This is foremost on our minds also. You have to remember that, okay, I'm going to be the devil's advocate, excuse the expression. The more that Israel talks about it, the more Israel does about it, about the Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, there's going to be more and more pushback from the West. There is much talk about Israel being boycotted and embargoed by countries like France and Britain and Germany and Australia. And the left media in Israel talks all the time about a tsunami of diplomatic repercussions to everything that the right wing is saying about annexing Judea and Samaria, annexing the Jordan River Valley, building thousands of new housing units. You probably all heard about Ma'ale Adumim. Well, we are adjunct to Ma'ale Adumim, and they were going to be building superhighways all around us that will link up Jerusalem with E1 and Ma'ale Adumim. E1 is an area which divides between Ma'ale Adumim and Jerusalem. That's E1 is to the west of Ma'ale Adumim. To the east of Ma'ale Adumim, there's an area called Area G. That is going to be annexed also. This will include Kfar Adumim, which is to the east of Ma'ale Adumim. The moment we do that, we are about 7, 8 miles from the Dead Sea. It was also on the news that the Israeli government will build a railroad or a light rail. Light rail is like a trolley, a tram that we have in Jerusalem. Our tram is developing very beautifully in Jerusalem. The tram will reach Ma'ale Adumim. That's halfway to the Dead Sea. So, I've always been fantasizing. I'm a person who fantasizes, and I fantasize about the light rail reaching the shores of the Dead Sea and En Gedi. It has already been decided that there will be another train from Kiryat Shmona in the north. It'll go about 40 miles south till it reaches Beit Sha'an. So all the people of the north of Israel will be connected up by rail. And we are talking also about a rail link that will go from Jerusalem down to the Dead Sea. And then there's another rail link which will go from Tel Aviv to Yerucham. And then Highway 6 will reach Eilat. The railroad will reach Eilat. The Likud government has many plans. I don't know what will happen if there's an election and the Likud loses, God forbid. But I think that we are on the cusp of so many developments taking place, which will include also Judea and Samaria. I'll say something else also that I didn't even really know about, but during the time of the Turks, there was a railroad from Haifa that went, it was called the Valley Railroad. And this railroad has been rebuilt, reaching Beit Shan, which is what I mentioned before. And the railroad will be extended to Tiberias. So those of you who've been in Tiberias, you know what I'm talking about. That brings us all the way up to the Jordan River. And from there, the train could go up to Damascus. It already existed, the Damascus-Hijaz Railroad. So there are a lot of things that are being developed. As you all probably know, President Trump has a plan to compete with the Chinese Silk Road plan, which would go from China westward to Europe. And so President Trump is working on the same type of idea, like a belt road, which would also be over the desert from Oman to Israel through Saudi Arabia and Jordan. And of course, India, there are still problems. The US has to work out these problems with India. I don't know how it's going to happen, but theoretically, India would be competing with China for this highway. In other words, the Chinese would have their Silk Road highway, which would be rail and also road highways. And with India, I don't know if the technicalities, but there would be roads and ships going across the waters and to Arabia, and then Jordan, and to Israel, and to Haifa, and to Ashdod. So this means that the whole area will become integrated. And when you say integrated, the Palestinians who want to live in peace with us will enjoy it. The Palestinians who want to destroy us, which most of them do, uh, they will probably be sent to Indonesia or some other place. But it cannot be that you have a fifth column of terrorists whose religion or insanity, I call Islam an insanity, their insanity will not allow them to live in peace. Not with the Jews, not with the Christians, not with the Hindus, and even fellow Muslims. So all of these things are very, very interesting. I mean, we are living with history in the making, but Israel is preparing the infrastructure for railroads and highways and transport of goods coming from the West and coming from the East and being shipped across, uh, um, from India and points east all the way to Europe and points west. We have to see where this whole thing with the boycotts and embargoes get shut down. We got to shut down these embargoes, and we have to do something to make sure that Europe understands that they have to have their heads screwed on in the right way. And praise God, we got President Trump and the Israeli leadership and some of the Europeans. Um, an interesting point: you have a European country, Hungary, and Hungary is home to a low-cost airline called Wizz. I don't know if you heard of Wizz, Wizz. They're establishing a major hub in Tel Aviv. So these are low-cost airlines that will be flying all over the world, leaving out of Israel, because the Hungarian government is very pro-Israel. Viktor Orban, and don't forget, I mean, he's a Catholic, but he's very pro-Israel, very pro-West. Um, I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with Viktor Orban. So we're looking forward to all of this developing Judea and Samaria. I think, Lori, you know that a lot of the problems that the Jewish community will be facing globally is going to cause a tremendous aliyah to Israel of Jews from many countries who will be suffering from these embargoes and boycotts and anti-Semitism. And so I think that we indeed will be seeing a massive growth, explosive growth of population here in Israel, and homes being built, and I think Israel gets stronger and stronger. You have some Jews who are left wing and they're afraid and they leave the country, and so they leave. Throughout the history of Israel over the last 100 years and more, there have been people who came as immigrants and they broke and they left. I myself had a difficult time politically. And so I broke and I had to leave. I was forced to leave, but I'm back. I mean, I never really left, praise God. There was always a lull. And my wife held down the fortress here for me. And my kids grew up and got married and had children. And now my kids and my grandkids are holding down the fort. And maybe for a time just as this, there was a time that I had to travel and do my speaking tours and write my 7 books going on 9. And so I'm working on all these things to come to fruition in the very near future. I don't know if I answered your question, Lori, but another point also, Judea and Samaria, we drive to Aaron's house in Ophrah, and they are expanding the highways into 2 lanes in each direction. And literally, we are gobbling up the mountains to broaden the highways. So it's a very, very exciting time for all of us. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
Yeah, that's interesting. The connection with the trade route, the connection to sovereignty across Israel to the, trade route that's trying to be established. That's an interesting connection.
Very interesting connection. And we are also, it's interesting that we are in the heart of Trump and we're in the heart of Putin. Putin loves Israel. Israel's being very careful not to tread on the toes of the Russians. Um, but if Putin loves us and if Trump loves us and many conservatives in America, I heard Trump's favorability ratings in America are higher than ever now. I think it's 54%. Yes. Did I cut you off, Laurie?
No, no, you answered my question, but I'll ask another one. What's going on with the ultra-Orthodox there as far as army service?
Well, the Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, are being pricked by the left all the time. Uh, the left really, really hates the ultra-Orthodox. And everything the left does is to provoke the ultra-Orthodox. We have on Channel 14, which is the channel we always watch, we have representatives from the ultra-Orthodox who are saying that the best way to get, or the only way to get ultra-Orthodox to be in the Israeli army is by sweetness, and they call it friend bringing friend. And no, there should be no pressure from the government. There should be no violence from the police. There should be no, just let nature take its course. Many ultra-Orthodox yeshiva students are understanding that they have to break out of the mold of the rabbis and become more integrated in the country. And the army is the key. So a lot of ultra-Orthodox, not a lot. Again, we're talking about a population of 70,000 ultra-Orthodox. The Israeli army is talking about 10,000 at this stage for the next 2 years, ultra-Orthodox students joining the army. Something very interesting I heard on one of the economic programs, because we have economics also in our news. And that is that a lot of the ultra-Orthodox they go to the yeshiva, then at night they go to private courses to learn English, mathematics, international things. And I would love to be with them and teach them these things. It may happen one day, I don't know. But there are many ultra-Orthodox who realize that there's a bigger world out there, and that the ultra-Orthodox families live in dire economic poverty because of the rabbis. And so it's not that they are going against the rabbis, it's that they are thinking about their own wives and children. I don't know if you know this or not, but ultra-Orthodox women all go out to work, and a lot of them work in high tech and computers. And of course, the ultra-Orthodox are very smart people. They're being stymied by the rabbis. But think for a moment sociologically, how must it be with a married couple where the man studies Torah all day and the wife is out in the real world working, supporting the family. I'm sure she comes home and she tells them the things that she learns, and it must be very frustrating for the ultra-Orthodox yeshiva students just to study Talmud all the time. Excuse me, it's very boring. I mean, it's wonderful things to study, but it's irrelevant to modern day life. So the question we all ask is to get how to give encouragement and incentives to the ultra-Orthodox men to break out of this mold that is strangling them. The men are being strangled economically. They live in dire poverty. And by the way, I see this with my own in-laws, my own family. So I think the solution is love. For the ultra left, the solution is throwing them in jail and having demonstrations in the streets, and that will only cause a pushback from the ultra-Orthodox. Ah, root beer is the best. Yes, more questions. By the way, I don't want to mention names, but you know who I'm talking about. I mean, the guy who I'm talking about, you all know who I'm talking about, but I won't mention names. But I just wanted to say that one of the things about Christians buying land in Israel is that it's not simple. And so my recommendation is any Christian who wants to come to Israel to buy a home, even in Samaria, because there's going to be a lot of building going on soon. There is a legal way to do it. And there are lawyers like Caleb Myers. He makes a lot of money from this, but that's what lawyers do. And that is to uh, prepare all the paperwork as a Christian for anyone who wants to buy a home in Israel. There are limitations. There are things that have to be surpassed first. It is a process. But there are many, many real estate agents who can help anyone who wants to buy an apartment or buy a piece of land. Also, another thing, when you buy land, you don't buy it, you rent it from the government for 99 years. So I don't know if anyone expects to live another 99 years, but anyone who wants to buy a home in Israel and is a Christian has to understand that Israel is not interested in becoming a Christian country. Israel is interested in being a Jewish country, but we can allow, in certain extraneous circumstances, um, uh, Christians to buy homes or apartments and enjoy them. So when you come to Israel, we'll talk about it. Questions, questions.
I'll ask another one. What are your thoughts on the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace deal?
Well, now Avi Lipkin has to be the ultimate, how shall I say, politician, um, because I've been watching Armenia very closely. In my book, that of course I've stopped working on it because I came to America for 2 months and I'm back here now. And my first priority now is getting my eighth book published in Hebrew and getting ready. Good, good. Getting ready for the elections, if we have elections. But the book will take 9 months, even after I pay them $25,000. But after that, I'm going to full speed ahead on my ninth book, which is about Turkey and the Armageddon. And you have to remember that the Turks invaded what is today Turkey, Anatolia, in the year 1002. And on their way to conquering Anatolia, there was a country called Armenia. And the Armenians were slaughtered. They were slaughtered by the Turks. You know, you have all these invading armies. They're slaughtering the people who've been living there first. Armenia was actually a pretty big country. It was the first Christian country. And they were slaughtered by these invading Turks. So the Turkish Holocaust started in 1002, and the Turks have been slaughtering the Armenian Christians and other Christians for 1,000 years. What's happening now between Armenia and Azerbaijan is a continuation of a 1,000-year war. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think it's wonderful that Aliyev and the Armenian leader sat down with under the auspices of President Trump and signed a peace deal. But Nagorno-Karabakh is an enclave inside of Azerbaijan. Uh, the Armenians want Nagorno-Karabakh to be connected with a land route into Armenia and become part of Armenia. And the Azerbaijani Muslims are saying, no way, Jose. And so that's what the war is about. So I think it's 100,000 population in Nagorno-Karabakh. It's a big mountainous valley area. Um, I don't know where it's all going. I do know that there are many Armenians who are anti-Israel because Azerbaijan, which is a Shiite Turkish country, uh, is very pro-Israel. We have very good relations with Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan borders northwestern Iran. Across the border into Iran, there is an Azeri, in other words, Azerbaijani population. Many of them are loyal Iranians, but many of them, there are those who want to break away. They want to break away from Iran, and they want that province in the north of Iran to become part of southern Azerbaijan. So that's something that I don't know how that will turn out. I'm not involved in it, but the Israeli Mossad, the Israeli military, is in Azerbaijan. I've heard that the Israeli Air Force is in Azerbaijan. The border with Iran is porous, and Azerbaijan is working very closely with the Israelis. I think there's something there that the Azerbaijanis are very happy with the partnership they have with Israel. And strategically, I think you can all understand that Azerbaijan is very important for Israel being on the northern border of Iran. Across on the other side of the Caspian Sea, there's another Muslim country. You'll forgive me, I'm having a senior moment. I don't know if it's Kazakhstan or Tajikistan. There's some country there that is Turkic Muslim, and they're also pro-Israel, and they're working with the Israelis. So we have relations with two Muslim countries which are working with Israel. And I think there are a lot of people, there are a lot of Islamic countries that are not happy with Iran, and they prefer Israel. So to be politically correct, and diplomatically correct, I would say that Israel is very, very careful in its relations regarding Armenia, because the Armenians are allies of Iran. Figure that out. The Armenians are allies of Iran, and Iran, at least until now, was their backer. But now the Putin and the Russians, with their own problems with Ukraine, have pulled back. Armenia is very, very isolated. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why President Trump succeeded in getting the Armenians to patch up, so-called patch up with Aliyev and the Azerbaijanis. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you. We're close to an hour. You think that's a wrap for today?
I have to tell you the truth. I didn't even look at the clock the whole time.
It's
Listen, I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a great time.
good
I
information.
wish my wife would listen to me like that. That was supposed to be funny. But you know my wife's answer. You don't know anything, I know everything. So what can I do? I see you're all muted, so I don't hear anybody giggling or laughing, but okay, let's make it a wrap then.
I was laughing.
Good, good.